Hi, Cara. Thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Hi.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your involvement with the creative arts?
I can, yes. So I'm Cara Pringle, and I'm a freelance marketing and cultural project officer. So in terms of my main area in specialism is events and cultural projects. One of the big events that I'm working on and I'll talk about a lot is Festival of Thrift, but I've also worked for Middlesbrough Art Weekend, a lot of the local museums and cultural kind of organisations in the area.
Great. So I was really keen to speak to you because I think there's a lot of jobs in the creative industries that people just don't know about or don't think about. And so I was really keen to get somebody who has, I guess, what people outside of arts would think of as a proper job.
Yeah.
There's plenty of proper jobs in the arts.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about how you got into all this?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in arts. I was in the drama club at school. I went through university, college with kind of always like leaning towards more culture and art side of things, but did quite a formal degree in tourism and marketing. Um, when I came out of university, the first thing I did was got a seasonal job working on outdoor events. And from there, I was really hooked. But knew I kind of wanted to do more than just, as fun as it was, stand on the doors taking tickets off people. I wanted to kind of be involved in telling people about it and spreading the word. And because every time I worked at an event or at a museum, I'd come home and I'd tell everybody about it. I'd tell my friends about it. And I kind of thought, this is me, as good as much as I enjoyed doing the kind of delivery, I just thought, I need to use my gift of the gab in a more kind of formulaic way. And obviously some of the stuff that I've done in my formal like university. So that's kind of, I knew what I wanted to do. And so just kind of put myself out there, applied for jobs, a mixture of tourism, arts, events, kind of got as much experience as possible and aligned myself with as many influential people as possible in the creative arts, and did a lot of volunteering to kind of get that on the ground experience. So yeah, and that's kind of been over 20 years now, so I'm still loving it, still love working at events.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something really quite special. I mean, look at all these happy people
Yeah.
out there in the real world where we used to play.
I know, so
Um,
much fun.
I know we're hopefully this summer we'll be out there. So can you just sort of describe a little bit about what your role might involve when you're
Okay, so I will work with an organisation and find out what it is they're wanting to do in terms of audience development, where they want to position themselves, what they want to tell to people, tell other people, what their expectations are around kind of marketing and PR, and really kind of become an extension of their team for as long as they need me to be there. So it's kind of really, and also being realistic in expectations, because everybody wants to be on BBC News and in The Guardian. And kind of actually that isn't always the holy grail in events and culture. It's actually about getting bums on seats and people through gates, and in the last a year now, people online. So so it is an ever-changing beast, but it's really about kind of understanding what the ethos is of each organisation I work with, and kind of match that up with the right audience for them, and then use the right channels to do that. But again, it's not commercial marketing. When we're dealing with cultural arts and events, it is more organic, it's more relationship building, it's more really talking about the ethos and kind of what's behind it, and really finding out who it is you're trying to talk to. So it is slightly different to some of the other, what you might expect from kind of marketing agencies and that kind of thing. It is a bit more bespoke, and it's a bit more sensitive, I would say, in terms of some of the stuff that I do.
Yeah, really interesting. Have you worked in other sectors?
I have, yes. So I do have a couple of contracts that I run alongside, which are commercial and business, we call it B2B, business to business, and it's a very different kettle of fish, but it's good to have that mix because there is a crossover with the two, so you can kind of use things that you might use in a more formal business way, but actually adapt them slightly for creative businesses. So I think it's always good to have that one foot in a kind of different industry to just kind of make sure that there isn't things happening that we're not seeing because we're kind of in a nice, lovely creative arts bubble. And so, yeah, so it is nice to kind of, although I do always tend to float back to cultural projects, I have to say I have to have my cultural fix, but yeah, it's good to have that mix, I think, and still kind of feel the real world sometimes creeping in.
Yeah, I'm in the same myself. I've always almost like a dual existence, as you know,
Yeah.
always had like what me proper job.
Yeah.
Running
And the thing is, what I do tend to do as well is, because I'm aware of some of the financial constraints that arts organisations have, I'll be able to offset my fees if I still work in other industries as well. So it's a bit kind of like, you know, almost Robin Hood style. You know, it's kind of I can reduce my rates for an organisation that I really. Oh, sorry, my son's just walked in.
Don't worry, mine have popped in a few interviews. It's a lockdown project.
Come back in 10 minutes, please. Thanks. Yeah. Sorry.
At least mine are a bit older now, so that I can just. Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
really interesting what you're saying. My organisation is called Big Fish Little Fish because of exactly that. When we first set up, it was more of a kind of a multimedia company, like graphic design, web design, 3D animation, that kind of thing. So we would work for people like Mini and Canon and Reuters and charge them as much money as we possibly could, so that we could offer websites to like artists for, you know, cost or for free. And that hence Big Fish Little Fish.
Cool, excellent. I mean, and it is, you know, it's kind of there are organisations out there that they simply don't have a budget to do PR and marketing. It just doesn't exist. And I do encourage clients that I work with and organisations that I work with to always build it into funding, because it does get lost, because you're thinking about the big stuff and the kind of, you know, we've got to survive, but actually that what has happened over the last 6-7 months has made people realize that you need to think about that thing, because if you suddenly lose the very thing that has been kind of keeping you going, what else do you have to fall back on? And a lot of cultural organizations have well, not even just cultural organizations, a lot of organizations have gone, oh right, we haven't looked at our website in 6 years, we haven't done a press release in 2 years. So it is kind of, I think it's made a lot of organisations think about, you know, building that in, but you need funds to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of neatly brings me on to the last kind of question, which is, you know, how's lockdown been? Has it affected your work, your practice, and are you planning, or are you just kind of playing it by ear, week by week, see where we are?
From the word go, I was planning, kind of mulling it over, seeing how is this going to work? How, you know, I think that kind of first week in March, everything just fell kind of into a big hole, and I was spent the rest of the month pulling stuff out. I do think that in terms of a learning journey, it's been the biggest one I've been on since I started working kind of professionally. Loads of new skills, and I've really kind of enjoyed learning more about digital delivery and about how organisations can adapt. That's been fascinating, especially cultural organisations, because they've got the creativity to think outside the box. So that's been really interesting, working with organisations at how they've adapted. And yeah, planning to have, recommending organisations, and me planning to have that dual digital mix and on-site mix moving forward. So, you know, it will be easy once we get out kind of dancing, partying, it'll be easy to forget the digital, but I feel like planning wise, it'll be my job to make sure people don't lose that digital kind of platform that they've built up and relationships. And in terms of audience development, you know, we did something with Festival of Thrift where we were suddenly reaching people in New Zealand. And with the greatest will in the world, we're not going to get that many people from New Zealand coming to festivals in Tees Valley. So you know, there is that interesting side of how things can go. And you know, I just hope that, you know, people don't forget how easily it can kind of all change. And you know, we will have that, but I think kind of that I'll keep that in my mind. You know, it is quite fragile. Everything that we're doing is very fragile, especially in the arts. And it's been interesting to see kind of, you know, how people have relied so much on creativity and arts and that offer to get them through lockdown. And yeah, it's just been really fascinating to watch it. So
yeah, absolutely. It's been and it's been quite a journey. You know, this is I'm in the last couple of days of this 6-month interview process, and just sort of, you know, first, second, I don't even know which lockdown we're in. And yeah, but it does seem, you know, I think in one part of it is that artists have always been used to an unpredictable and always changing world, and you know, never really knowing where the next is coming from. So I think they've, you know, there's people have adapted quite well. And also, as you were saying, definitely so many people suddenly realizing they need to do something about their website or their social media.
Definitely, yeah. And actually the people that have been investing in it really were quick starters in March and April. You could see the people, you were like, oh, that's so clever. And it kind of then it didn't take people long to catch up and kind of switch on. And you know, just wish I'd bought shares in Zoom.